Town Council meeting to order. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. We will begin with a moment of silence. Thank you. Alice, would you lead us in the pledge? I know. You made a bad mistake.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, review and adoption of the agenda. Look over that and make a motion whenever you're ready.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
All in favor? Thank you. Approval of minutes from the May 22nd, 2023 regular meeting minutes and the May 22nd, 2023 closed session minutes. And you have the closed session minutes on your desk. So make a motion whenever you're ready.
I make a motion to approve May 22nd regular and May 22nd closed session meeting.
All in favor? Thank you.
Can I get the closed session back?
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Not gonna hang on to that.
Did you hear it? All right. And another. All right, are there any public comments? No public comment. Nobody signed up, I guess.
I believe we do have.
Yes.
Did you have something?
I'd like to ask for an extension on the 327 Highway 70 East property to finish cleaning up. I've got a lot done, but I was working a job as an traveling supervisor. I was being deployed anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks at a time. I've obtained a job local, and I'm home now, so I'll be able to get the cleanup much faster. So I'd like to ask for an extension on that property.
Okay, all right, thank you. We'll have our,
Ma'am, she just signed in right here for that.
we'll have our code enforcement speak a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay, 6,
Okay.
public hearing for the
626.
fiscal year 23 through 24 budget and schedule of fees. So I call to order this, or I open this public hearing for the purpose of talking about our budget and schedule of fees. Are there any comment from the public? Okay, hearing none, I will close this public hearing. And we will move on to number 7, old business. 7A, consider approval of fiscal year 23-24 budget and schedule of fees ordinances.
I make a motion to approve the fiscal year 23-24 budget schedule of fees ordinance.
Okay. Is there any comment? Okay. All in favor? Thank you. 8, new business. 8A, presentation of the Western Piedmont Housing Growth Toolkit. Allison Adams, Community and Regional Planning Director for Western Piedmont Council of Government. Come right on up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, good to see you all. It's been a while. So Let me just start off by saying that we saw the need regionally to address the housing situation. And that, basically, typically how we would do this would be put the regional housing plan together, and then we would from that get the recommendations, and then we would do a toolkit, right? But there's such a dire need of housing in this region, not only in this region, but nationally. And so we saw that it would be more advantageous to create a toolkit for local governments to be able to, implement. And it doesn't mean you have to implement the whole thing. If you don't drink all the Kool-Aid, that's fine. If you don't drink any of the Kool-Aid, that's fine too. We are just trying to take very proactive steps to address our housing crisis that we're having. And there are some very forward-thinking ideas in here, and then there's some more traditional ideas. So what I'd like to do is give you a little bit of data, and then that way it sets the stage for the reason why I'm suggesting what I'm suggesting. So what we are seeing across this nation is a housing shortage, and that is not just affordable housing, that's all types of housing. Because think of it this way, if you have a new family that comes in and you have an older adult who's wanting to downsize, what are they doing? They're competing over the same housing stock. And so that makes it really hard to find housing. And that's happening on multiple levels. It's not just that situation. The other thing that we're seeing is that people with low and extremely low incomes are at serious risk for instability because more than 50% of their income is going toward housing. So that doesn't leave much money for things like medical, food, and sustainable things that you need, to be healthy and happy, etc. So the other thing that we are seeing is that the market has shifted. And so if you think about the American dream, the bigger the house, the bigger the lot, it's prestigious, etc., the desire is changing. So the folks that are entering the ability to purchase housing and things like that, their desire is not the bigger lot, the bigger house. So let me put it in context for you. It is, do I want to mow my yard on the weekend, or do I want to go out and make memories? And a lot of times what you're seeing with the younger crowd is that they're wanting to go out and they're wanting to make memories. So they don't want to spend time with upkeep, etc. So the smaller the lot, or even our rental situation, is way more ideal for them. Some other trends that we're seeing in this region specifically is we have an aging population. We've heard that time and time again from Taylor Dellinger. The other thing that we've heard from Taylor is that we have the oldest housing stock from the MSA in North Carolina. We also are seeing through the census data from the 10-year period an increase in racial diversity. That will continue to accelerate. And basically that has to do with, I think things are changing, but also I think it's the way that they ask the question, multiple races, etc. So we are also still dealing with the housing crisis fallout. So there are some ripple effects from that as well that we're seeing. Just to put it in perspective, in 2013, our median household or sales price was $120,000. 2023, we're at $250,000. That is an astronomical jump. So we have to be very mindful. For this region, and this is, I don't know if you've heard Anthony, the executive director, say this or not, but I believe he preaches it. I want to say amen whenever he says it because I've heard it so many times. That we need 1 to 2% population growth in this region year over year to be economically sound. So that's huge because let me give you some perspective. So this last census, the way that they counted population, they changed it a little bit from time to time because of the rules. And so if you're in proximity to this, or it's the way they count. If we didn't count Maiden with our current population that just came from the census, we would have lost a lot of federal money in this region. That federal money is what sets us apart from those smaller cities and areas that are not considered MSAs, metropolitan statistical areas. Okay, so we get federal transportation dollars, And then there's home consortium programs and things like that. So it does really help our region. So keep that in mind. So housing growth is gonna help sustain our economy. Okay, I'll get off that soapbox. So how can we help? As local governments, how can we help? We have to break down those barriers. And what are those barriers? There's three major ones, and then we're gonna dive in a little harder. So we need to allow more housing types. We need to allow denser housing. And we also need to be quick, and we need to be predictable in our development reviews. So sometimes you'll hear developers come in and they'll say, gosh, it takes forever to get a permit, okay? Now, I've worked other places in the state of North Carolina, and I will say that we're usually quicker than most, but there are communities that I do see in the region that we can do a better job of. And I'll identify some of the things that I think are best practices. So how do we sell this? What does this mean? When the rubber hits the road, what does this mean? This means that if we give more choices and we create density, we give better value to our taxpayers. And how do we do that? Well, we do it through cost savings, because you have the same amount of infrastructure serving more people if you take like a radius, right? So you're serving more people with the same amount of infrastructure. And we all know infrastructure is extremely expensive. The other thing is that has environmental benefits. So things like conservation of land, water supply, the natural beauty of the area. So if we put dense housing in specific locations, then we can conserve other places. And ultimately, that pays off in the end, because what will end up happening is we don't have to do as much water quality implementation as we would if we were sprawling. The other thing, and the biggest thing, is the increase in tax base, the greater revenue, and the potential to lower the cost per resident. And so that's huge. That's improving services across the board. So those are the big ticket items. I think, I know folks get hung up on, well, we want large lots, et cetera, but you really understand what that means from a tax dollar standpoint. So we created 10 best practices. And this is identifying things that local governments can do in their ordinances. And so the first one, of course, is allow more housing types. So here's what you typically see across the region. You see a zoning code that looks like R40, R30, R20, R15, right? And you have single family, maybe a duplex, right? There's no diversity in housing. So what we're saying is allow the ability to do quadplexes, triplexes, duplexes in all of them. You'd be amazed if you drive through Hickory. I use Hickory as an example because I live there, but if you drive through Hickory, you wouldn't believe how many quadplexes and multiplexes that you actually pass, and you have no clue because they're single family looking houses from the street front. You're looking at them and you're going, that's a beautiful home. It houses 4 families, So it's amazing what architecture design can do to accomplish that. So what we need to be mindful of is we need to let the market drive what's being built, and we need to build in that flexibility in our codes. The second thing is to decrease or eliminate minimum lot sizes. So what larger lots equal is an affordability issue. So the more land you have with a lot, people want you to pay prime dollar for it. So we make the lot smaller, then it makes it more affordable. It also disincentivizes sprawl, right? The farther out your houses are, et cetera, the more infrastructure you're having to push out. Guess who's paying for that? The citizens are paying for that, and the town, city, county. It also you have to be mindful of environmental situations. Obviously, some of us have watersheds and phase 2 stormwater, et cetera. We're not neglecting that. We need to still address those things, but where we can make a difference, we need to be making a difference. And we really should allow the number of units per acre to dictate what's ideal, which allows clustering. So density is huge. The reduction in setbacks. So here's what we typically see in zoning codes. 20-foot front setback, 30, in the county maybe 40, sometimes we see 80 in industrial districts. So we need to be mindful, because in a residential district, why do we need a 40-foot front yard? What are we gonna do with it? Nobody sits on the front porch anymore. If they do sit in the front porch, they're not watching their kids play because they don't want them playing out there because it's not safe anymore. You want to play them in the back. So, but let's change the way we think. Remember Aunt Bee and Barney and Andy Griffin? And the houses were pushed up to the street, literally, and they were all sitting on the front porch. Okay, that's what we need to create. We need to create that excitement on the street front. We need to push the houses up. We need to park in the back. We can slide the houses over one way or the other and have offsetting side setbacks and drive behind the house, park behind the house. When it's really tight fence, we can have an alley in the back. But we don't want, we don't think of it this way. If you're driving in a residential subdivision, typical residential subdivision, driving down the road, what do you see? Garage door concrete, garage door concrete, garage. Is that exciting? Golly, that's awful, okay? So, but we incentivize that right now with the way our codes are. So we need to rethink what's important. And so a lot of times when we're trying to attract people here, we want quality of life. Well, if we create neighborhoods people want to be in, and they can create that sense of community, it goes a long way. And I'll get off that soapbox. The fourth item is revising your street frontage requirement. So think of it this way. I would say every code, I think there might be one, maybe two codes in the region that allow a residential lot to not have to front a public street. I think every code in this region pretty much says if you have a residential house and a lot, you have to front the public street. Why? Why do we care? If it's accessible, if you can get there with a fire truck, great, But think of it this way. You could do a nice courtyard, and I'm gonna point to an example in Granite Falls, Duke Street Cottages, and they have a really nice, big urban grassy area. All the houses front this grassy area. You have an alley that drives behind, so they all park behind them. And guess what happens? Those people congregate. There's a sense of community there. And what also happens is when you have kids, it's where they go play football in that front yard, and everybody's there. So it creates that sense of community. And what we've just done is we've given opportunity for infill lots on tiny places to, front a park or front a court or front, a green space. Even greenways, you can front a greenway as long as you have rear access. 5, eliminate your parking standards. So what do we plan for? And I'm gonna talk a little bit commercial real quick. What do we plan for when we design parking and we think of Walmart? What day do we plan for? Black Friday. And the parking lot's huge. And is it ever truly full except for Black Friday? No. We over plan for parking. We do the same thing with residential. And Americans, and I'm gonna pick on all of this, we are notorious for using our garage for our junk and our storage rather than our cars. So we are creating a monster by saying, well, you gotta have 2 spaces outside your garage door. Well, in essence, you're giving them 3. They can park in the garage, but you just gave them more space to put their junk. So think of it that way. It also allows for creative placement. There's a subdivision in Davidson where there's power line easement across the subdivision, and they have actually put in there some overflow parking where you can pull off the main road and park. And that when the guests have parties, their guests park there. So just coming up with creative parking solutions. Number 6, allowing for PUDs and adaptive reuse programs. And this is pretty standard. Using tax credits, etc., but basically taking old mills, and that's a big way to make an impact because you can put a bunch of units in one spot if you're talking about number of rooftops. So leveraging that and also creating creating the opportunity to do brownfield development, redevelopment, etc. Number 7, allowing ADUs. I know this is a little bit of a rub for some, but it's definitely an affordable option, okay? So an ADU is an accessory dwelling unit. It can add a lot of flexibility in a residential district, and here's why. Okay, by general statute, you have to allow for a caregiver home. So in your code, you can't say, well, we don't allow anybody to live in the backyard in a small house, just follow me. Anyway, they can live in there if they're a caregiver by state law, and you have to allow it. But let's take it a step further. Let's say that you have a college student come home from college, they haven't done that first job, etc. You don't really want them in your house. You just want to park them out back. You want to say, get yourself in here, find yourself a job, but you're going to pay me a little bit of rent to stay here, but I'm going to let you get on your feet. Perfect opportunity. Perfect opportunity in a college town for somebody that needs a place to stay. Perfect opportunity for somebody that has just taken a job at a big corporation but hadn't found the right housing for their family or even themselves. And they need just a little bit of time to be able to figure out where they want to plant their roots in the region. Perfect opportunity. So I'll stop there with that. The next slide is in your packet is, so I love this because there are 1,493 trips a day on average to the Chick-fil-A in Hickory on Highway 70. I'll tell you what that tells me. I won't stop in Chick-fil-A. That would be really nice. But what that equates to in single-family residential housing, and where I'm going with this, is everybody says, oh, residential housing, all the traffic's so bad. Well, you know what we do with the Chick-fil-A when they come and they say, oh, we want to build Chick-fil-A? We put them through a site plan review process with staff. We don't even take them to the board. They get the building permits, that Chick-fil-A's up, and everybody's coming like this, right? Getting the fries, getting the Chick-fil-A sandwich. But what do we do to the residential subdivision that meets the rules and the ordinance? Meets every bit of the ordinance, we still make them come to the board. We do that. Okay, but let me make a point. 1,493 trips a day. You know what that equates to? 186 houses. The same traffic volume, okay, of 186 houses. And I'm not, McDonald's is less than that. It's McDonald's is 543, and that equates to 67 housing units. But here's why I say this, is we shouldn't make the residential subdivision that meets the ordinance go through a board process for approval when there is no logic, reason for the board to turn them down. In other words, you're setting yourself up you're setting the public up for false hope, but you're also setting yourself up that if you turn it down, there could be legal ramifications. So we should shift reviews where they meet the ordinance to staff. We should let them go through the process, and this is where I talk about the streamlining process. So give them something that is very prescribed, let them go through the process, let them do permits, let them move on. And what that really means is crafting high quality ordinances. So, and you guys are the ones that approve those ordinances. So you know exactly what you've approved. So when somebody comes in that wants to do a project and they meet that, then they've already gotten your approval. The other thing I will tell you that I have noticed in this region is, and I don't know if it happens here or not, but even plats, like final plats, go to the boards for approval. You have a sketch plan, which, okay, if it needs to go to the board for approval, that's fine, you know. If it's questionable as far as doesn't meet the ordinance, etc., it's fine. That's your vested plan. Then you have your construction drawings, which is your very technical drawings. People like engineers and architects and planners, transportation folks, those people need to be reviewing those. And then the plats are the things that actually create the lots. And the plat matches the construction drawings, and the construction drawings match the vested plan. So there's no sense in taking construction drawings and plats to boards, because they should all match. So we need to get away from that. Number 9, and I'm gonna try to be quick. Sorry, I know it's hot. Required street width pavements. We need to tighten them up. I know the fire folks are like, well, you can't get a ladder truck for. You don't need to drive a ladder truck to every fire call, because 3/4 of your calls are medical. They're not fire. You don't need to take a fire ladder truck out. Now, I know sometimes it's a personnel issue. You only have so many personnel, et cetera, et cetera. Get it. But we also need to be very mindful that the nature of the fire service is transitioning and changing. And even the apparatus that we use for fire is gonna be changing because of that shift. And so if we can tighten our streets up, what we've just done is we have reduced the cost of our streets when we have to go repave, because we all know capital money doesn't cover that cost fully. So and it's a way to be mindful of money. And if you're gonna do an alley, do a ribbon curb, it'll save you some money. Number 10 is just incentives for design and density. So if they can put in things like, you can have a stormwater pond, they can put a fountain in there, you can put a walking trail around it, put some benches, some landscape, call it pretty, and people use it as an amenity, give them density, give them credit for it. I will shut up and take any questions you guys have, and I appreciate you letting me present to you. We see this as a very important issue in our region. It really is the health in the next 10 years and making that difference, because there's and I'll tell you just from population, looking at the map, there is a population gap that we see between Longview, Hildebran, Drexel-ish area. So we need to try to put some rooftops there so that we don't have any gaps, so that doesn't affect our traffic. Any questions?
According to the census, our population went down. And even the number of houses went down according to them. I don't know where they went, but
Chad? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
What did you go?
Poor guy. I think on him all the time. Yeah, well, it's that, and, I think we have that oldest housing stock, so, I mean, you're gonna see a lot more houses being either torn down, but not rebuilt, because, the population's also shrinking, so, but,
Can that be partly because people are just not doing a census also?
some of it could be, especially since we were in COVID, it could be. I don't think it would have affected it enough for it to be that impactful to make a big sway in what we're seeing. So, okay, thank you. Thank y'all.
thank you. Okay, code enforcement quarterly review, Chad Powell.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Good to see everybody again. First thing I've got for you this evening, you should have copies of this stuff in front of you somewhere. I've got our second quarter report covering April through June, and I've also got a monthly report for June, which shows our latest violations and pictures. Our stat breakdown for the second quarter, we had 46 total violations opened up. 2 of those were non-residential minimum standards. 5 were minimum housing standards. 6 junk vehicles. 16 general nuisance trash, junk, debris, etc. 17 nuisance grass, plant overgrowth issues. On the resolve side of things, we had 27 of those 46 resolved, which is a 59% resolution rate to this point. We had 1 minimum housing issue resolved, 11 of our nuisance trash, junk, debris resolved, 2 junk vehicles, and 13 overgrowth resolutions. Our printout has the actual list of the violations and their location, the status. Feel free to look through those. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. I'll answer any questions to the best of my ability without having access to all my notes. And then our last page of there, or next to last page, I've got our currently open or active cases. Those are all broke down about what's still out there that I'm still dealing with. Just let me know if you have any questions or comments.
What's going on the I-40 access road, Chad?
They're actually working on that. I had the property there, the Jaybird Fuels, finally got that guy to get rid of that school bus over there. I think he took it over to the diesel garage that he owns next to there. So with it being at a diesel garage, I wouldn't necessarily write that up. But I think the last time I went by, last week, it looked like that thing was out of sight, so I think they totally got rid of it. But Kathy here, she's working on the property there right in behind KFC, getting that place squared away. They've made a lot of progress over the last few days there. Cut away a lot of the overgrowth and stuff that was next to the building. They've got the vehicles ready to get out of there. The vehicles are the main part still remaining there. But that property is looking a whole lot better.
That's pictures. Pictures.
Okay.
So we're definitely seeing progress.
Anything with the little green things across from BMP?
I've got an active violation there now. I'm trying to at least get him to mow or something over there.
Yeah, that's really looking bad.
Yeah, I'm gonna go this week and take the order that I mailed out last week. I'm gonna go and knock on the door and hand it to him or tape it to the door if he doesn't come to the door.
Okay.
I'm definitely working on that one.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And again, we appreciate the work that you have.
My pleasure. I'm glad to serve the town. I appreciate the opportunity.
Anybody have any questions?
They've been there as long as I can remember. Oh,
Okay. 8C, consider approval of ordinance directing code enforcement officer to remove or demolish property unfit for human habitation.
Okay, this is concerning the property at 327 US Highway 70 East. Ms. Platt that spoke earlier, she's here tonight. She's been dealing with that property, the cleanup aspect of it. She's worked with me. She's been really good thus far. She's made a lot of progress over there. But I'll give you kind of a rundown of that case, where we're at to this point and what our options are. I'll start with a general rundown of the mental housing process, just to get you guys up to speed. It's probably not something you deal with all the time. So North Carolina General Statute 160B Article 12 regulates mental housing moves, and this chapter authorizes municipalities to set forth mental housing standards and to enforce those standards through local ordinances adopted by the governing board. This presentation will lay out the steps that I have taken and also the pertinent general statutes and town ordinances in relation to this property, as it's in violation of the town regulations concerning residential minimum housing standards. The minimum housing process in brief, step one is when you become aware of a violation, is you issue a notice of the violation and set a hearing date. Step two is to hold a hearing and make a decision on how to proceed. Step three is to issue an order to repair or demolish, and it's based on the value of the property in relation to the amount that it's gonna cost to get it to where it needs to be. Step number 4 is to allow 10 days for an appeal. Step 5 is to provide adequate time for the property to be brought into compliance, usually 90+ days. This is in the order that's issued. At the conclusion of that, if it's not in compliance with the issued order, the municipality may pass an ordinance ordering the dwelling to be repaired, vacated, enclosed, or demolished by the town, and the cost placed as a lien against the property. So this case summary in particular, resulting from public complaints concerning unfit dwellings on this property, as well as my personal observations of the property from the public view, I initiated this minimum housing case by obtaining an administrative inspection warrant and conducting a minimum housing inspection of the property on January the 5th, 2023. On that date, I met with Kathy Platt, who was present there during the initial investigation, and she identified herself as a party in interest of this property, and she further identified her uncle and her brother, David Hildebran and Alan Clutch, respectively. I met both those gentlemen tonight for the first time. Those were the parties in interest that I was aware of for this property. I scheduled a minimum housing hearing to take place on February the 2nd at the town hall here. The town also placed a legal advertisement in the Morganton News Herald, which advertised the scheduled minimum housing hearing for this property. Ms. Platt contacted me by phone on February the 1st, and I conducted a phone hearing with her at that time. I just informed her of the impending order and what it's going to consist of, the deadline, that sort of thing. No individuals actually appeared in person at the hearing on February the 2nd. An order to remove or demolish was issued on February the 2nd, and the initial deadline on that order was set for May the 4th, 2023. That initial deadline provided a time period of 90 days for the unfit dwellings to be removed or demolished. The orders were mailed to the identified parties in interest on February the 2nd, and I also posted a copy of that order on the property over there on February the 9th. Moving forward a bit, Ms. Platt contacted me on April the 3rd. She stated she had had all but 2 of the mobile homes demolished, and she stated she was working on getting the remaining structures and debris removed as quickly as possible. She contacted me again on April the 28th and stated she had removed 6 mobile homes. However, she indicated there was still some significant work remaining to be completed, mainly with the debris and stuff from the demolition. I obtained an additional administrative inspection warrant on May the 4th and conducted a follow-up inspection of the property on that day. During my follow-up inspection on May the 4th, I observed the remnants of 6 mobile homes and the RV still remaining on the property. I observed a large amount of trash, junk, and debris to still be present on the property at that time. Due to the progress that had been made, I provided Ms. Platt with an additional 30-day deadline extension, which was set for June the 5th. And I spoke with Ms. Platt on May the 18th and informed her of the deadline extension. I met with Ms. Platt again and conducted another inspection of the property on June the 8th. And during my inspection on June the 8th, I observed several mobile home frames to be present, in addition to the RV and some quantities of junk and debris that still remain from the demolition work that had been carried out by Ms. Platt up to that point. So as of the date of this meeting, the property does remain in violation of the minimum housing standards. The next step in the process, as authorized under 160D 1203 subsection 5, if the owner fails to comply with an ordinance to remove or demolish the dwelling, the public officer may cause such dwellings to be removed or demolished. The duties of the public officer shall not be exercised until the governing board shall have by ordinance order the public officer to proceed to effectuate the purpose of this article with respect to the particular property or properties. Basically, I can't do anything until you guys adopt the ordinance. And once the ordinance is adopted on this, then we can move forward with the remaining cleanup and debris removal. There's only one of the structures that's still kind of standing. The rest of them are basically just frames. So what Ms. Platt informed me of tonight, she was wanting to know if the town would be willing to grant an additional extension. It's totally up to you guys. I have seen, a good bit of progress from the first time that I went out there to where we are now, but that ball's in you guys' court. It's totally up to you. And if you adopt the ordinance tonight, we would be free to abate the nuisances that are still over there, get rid of the debris and the remaining demolition that needs to be done. It would be pursuant to the ordinance. But I can do whatever you guys would like. If you want to get more time.
But I have to say, I rode out there one time and talked to her. She's out there working by herself. I bought a tractor, cleaned it up. She's trying.
Yeah.
I'll say let her have the extension.
Okay.
But that's a lot of work for one person to do,
Yep.
especially a woman.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
And I don't know what another 30 days of her or whatever. That's just my opinion.
What's your timeline looking like, Ms. Platt?
If I can get all my nephews and brothers' hands on it, I really think I could do it in 30 days.
Good.
I mean, I really literally have 3 with the floors completely out, and one with the floor up, but it's a lot of debris on it. So I only have one with two with a lot of floor in it, and like he said, one that's partially not down, it's just partially down. And it's at the very back of the property where there's a lot of overgrowth and vines and stuff. So,
If we do, proceed with, the adoption of the ordinance and the town's gonna carry it out, I met on June the 19th, with a gentleman named Hunter Harwell, and he's a contractor, and he routinely carries out demolition of mobile homes, and he's done similar work for nearby municipalities, and he does a lot of stuff in Chicago County. We went around the property on that day, and Kathy was there with us, and he provided us with a quote of $5,800, and that would be for him to go in and do that work, take away all the debris, finish the demolition. And part of that, which would be required in statute, any of the metal, the only thing really of value of there would be the metal, the steel frames and things from the mobile homes. So that metal, if we do the abatement, then he would take that, the metal to the scrap yard, and that money would actually be returned to the town, and it would go against the lien. It would count towards the lien. So the full $5,800 would be the cost. Let's say if we get, $1,000 in the scrap, then it would go against that $5,800, and that's what the final lien would be on the property. Just to get that out there. So regarding the RV that's on the property, so a dwelling is defined within General Statute 160B-102, subsection 15, as any building, structure, manufactured home, or mobile home, or part thereof, used and occupied for human habitation, or intended to be so used, and includes any outhouses and appurtenances belonging thereto, or usually enjoyed therewith. For the purposes of Article 12 of this chapter, the term does not include any manufactured home, mobile home, or recreational vehicle if used solely for a seasonal vacation purpose. So Ms. Platt has stated that the RV on the property has essentially been utilized as a break area, rest area, for people that have been working out there while they've been working. She also stated that her dog has chewed the RV wiring, so she is currently unable to retract the pull-out section of the RV. So that's another issue you kind of deal with that. During my inspections of the property, I have not observed any utilization of utilities at the RV, nor have I observed any leakage of water or sewage from the RV. When I was given permission by Ms. Platt to enter the RV during my latest inspection out there, I did not observe conditions that were consistent with someone permanently living there. Therefore, I currently have no evidence to suggest the RV is being utilized as a permanent dwelling. So Ms. Platt has indicated to me that once the work is completed on the property, she would remove the RV from the site. So that's kind of what we stand with the RV that's on the property. That's the main thing people notice when they go by. They see that RV out there.
If we give an extension, you know, bring us back to the next meeting,
Yeah, I could do that.
or at least give her to the next meeting,
If you
that's
guys
my
want,
opinion on how y'all.
yeah, if you guys want to table it,
She has been working, I think her working on it. It's already go.
if you guys want to do it that way, that's totally fine. The ball's in your court. If you want to adopt the ordinance and just give me parameters to work on, and just say, give her X amount of time, and then after that, if we've already got the ordinance.
I say let's give her the 30 days to adopt the order,
Okay. Dr.
and then she's got the 30 days to do it. If not, then we proceed.
That'll work.
Alright,
I'll give her an extension.
so council takes no action at this time, correct?
So
Yeah, I like-
we're gonna adopt, I make a motion, we adopt the order,
Alright,
give her the 30 days, and if it's not, then the town proceeds.
Same guy would do it, he'll do it a month later.
Mr. Harwell, I'm sure he's good for it. He didn't give me any kind of a time frame. He just told me to let him know.
You make that a motion?
I mean, it just gives us a peace of mind to say
That way,
that we're covered, that the job's gonna be done one way or the other.
You make that a motion?
I made that a motion.
I'll
Alright.
second.
all in favor? Alright, thank you. Okay. It's hot, let's hurry. 8D, consider approval of ordinance for temporary NCDOT road closures for June 10th, 2023 cruise in and fireworks. Of course, that's already passed, so we better approve it.
DOT did approve it beforehand. It's just, this was our first meeting that we've had since the cruise in, because they rescheduled the May cruise in to
Because
June.
of weather. It was-
Yeah, DOT
Fourth
did
grade.
approve it, but we just still need to do the ordinance.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance.
All in favor? Thank you. All right, E, consider approval of the Enola Group Incorporated Memorandum of Understanding. Do you have a comment on that, or that's just self-explanatory?
No, I mean, it's self-explanatory. You can see what the towns are required to do, but it's essentially the same memorandum we passed last year.
I'll make a motion to approve the Enola Group.
All in favor? Thank you. All right, F, discussion regarding general liability insurance requirement policy.
Yes, so we've had some, feedback from citizens on the current rental policy that we adopted. The main thing right now is that we're requiring event insurance for private gatherings. I did check with Longview and City Hickory. If it's a private rental, they currently don't require insurance or event insurance to cover that. What we could look at doing, and this is something the council can discuss, is altering the current policy to include the option for insurance on private gatherings when Amy Wisnett and Alice, do you remember the other?
Is that Lisa's name?
Lisa from the North Carolina League of Municipalities, our insurance provider came down. They did mention a case in where a gentleman did not get the offering of insurance from the municipality. He ended up having an incident. He claimed in court that if he had been offered the insurance, he would have took it. So with private parties, our suggestion is to offer the event insurance on the application. If they want it, check yes, get the insurance. If not, check no, I'm declining the insurance. We can work out the language and bring that back at a future meeting. But under any circumstance during a public event or during a paid event, they would have to have insurance, event insurance. We just wanted to know council's thoughts on that.
I think we need to, they either have insurance, we offer them insurance, they accept it, or I think they have to be insured.
And if it's required, they, like you said, do it, or whatever.
So, yeah, so do we think?
You're saying we wanna offer them insurance, or they have to provide their own insurance?
Or private one.
In other words, like a birthday party,
An option.
you know, these private events,
They won't be required to have it, simply offered.
Would be an option.
you're right. Just for private, but now anything public, paid events, those would still absolutely require it. That wouldn't be an option.
If they don't accept it, then they would be responsible for it,
Correct.
personally responsible for it.
And we can include all that language in the application.
I'll make a motion to do that. Motion.
All in favor? Thank you. Okay, G, consider approval of contracts for street right-of-way maintenance and community park maintenance.
Okay, I'll cover those. So, council has two contracts as part of AG for approval. The first contract is the right-of-way contract. There are 3 changes in the right-of-way contract, from the one you had previously for the last 3-year period. So changes include a 20% increase, that we discussed during the retreat. However, it also includes adding 2 properties in the contract that were previously, not under contract, but were being done as part of the budget. So we were paying for this, but it just wasn't included in the groundskeeper contract. The properties for that are the property we bought, 210 South Center Street on the backside of the gym. That's been added in on a weekly mowing for 35 weeks per year, 3 years. Same thing for the grass property behind the town hall, but not Christian Ministries property. It's the land in between the town hall parking lot and Christian Ministries. So that was added in as well. That was an $85 weekly cost for both, 35 weeks, 3 years. And then the only other change was we added a CPI increase clause for the year 2024 and 2025. That was to do with the inflation rate. When it went up 10% last year, asked for the increase, but we said, well, it's in the contract, so you gotta abide by it. So this time he asked for a CPI clause. That way, if you do have a significant spike in your inflation, he would be covered for that. So given that, we were under the previous contract and are now at $44,400 per year. With the 20% increase and the 2 additional properties per year, we would be at $56,255 for the right-of-way contract. For the park, so that contract, even though we weren't under contract the last year and a half, the previous contract that we were under, we are down from $65,000 per 3-year contract. That also included an additional $6,750 for playground mulch, down to, for the new contract that's being proposed, at $53,100 per 3 years. The main difference is the old contract included weekend cleaning services, mulching, herbicide spraying, and bi-weekly mowings at the disc golf course, not weekly. Now, even though we've been doing it weekly since the contract was terminated, there would be some differences in that in the new contract in terms of added costs. So, but the main reason for the drop was removing the weekend cleaning facilities, the spraying, and the mulching of the park, as well as the playground areas. In the current contract, we are mowing the disc golf course weekly versus bi-weekly. We budgeted around $10,000 per year in mulch. That would be your park mulch, not your playground mulch. We've added around 2,500, Rick, you correct me if I'm wrong, a year for playground mulch, and then $4,000 per year for spray. These items are outside the contract, but they are included in your budget. And then there is a CPI index clause as well for 2024 and 2025, just like the right-of-way contract. If you want for us to try to do an apples-to-apples comparison of the two, the old version versus the new version, we would basically, for the old contract, we would need to include doubling the disc golf course cost of the last contract. That would add around $15,000 to that $65,000 number you had previously. And then you would need to add in the $6,750. So ultimately, that took you to around $29,000 per year for the park under the old contract for all the same services. The new contract with the services with 20% increase, minus the weekend cleaning, you're up to about $34,200 per year, which is roughly an 18% increase. So you're a little under 20.
The 2 added properties, Logan, do they really need done every week?
If you're gonna, yes. If you're gonna require the code enforcement rules that we have for the private properties in town, you'd have to do them weekly.
Okay.
And if you don't have any questions, staff does recommend approval of both contracts.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract.
All in favor? Thank you. 8, consider approval of contract for snow removal on town streets.
So this one is much more straightforward. The snow removal contract includes the same services in terms that were set out in the previous contract. However, now there is a $2,500 retainer fee. This is used to cover the additional insurance that's now required for snow removal services by a contractor. It's roughly $7,500 per year. However, Jensen Lawn and Landscaping, they have essentially divided that cost into three different towns: Rutherford College, Conway Springs, and Hildebran. The issue they were running into is with the additional insurance costs, they have to purchase that insurance, but if you have a year like we had last year without any snow, there's no revenue, it's just some cost for the contractor. So they've asked that we put in a retainer fee of $2,500 per year to cover that, and then they did not have a rate increase, which is $140 per hour. for the rate. Nothing else changed in the contract. And staff does recommend approval.
I'll make a motion that we approve the contract with snow removal.
All in favor?
I
Opposed?
know you get straight my road.
What,
I don't know, you get straight my road.
are you opposing?
Yeah, I'm about it.
Okay,
No.
okay.
It does not cover private roads. Just as an FYI, or
I
driving.
think probably, it's got street sign on
Then it'll be included. If it's a town maintained road.
it. I know that. I don't know if you got any good left scraping snow with it. I hope you
I'm
don't.
not gonna say that, I should have repeated that.
Okay, I consider approval of budget amendment for transfer of funds for second ARPA distribution.
This is just to get it on the books so that money has a place to go.
All right,
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the budget amendment.
all in favor? Thank you. J, June facilities report, so that's in your packet. I don't guess there's any comment on that. Okay. K, tax report, May tax report, that is in your packet.
I did just want to quickly say.
Yeah.
This particular one down on the bottom on the Burke County side, there were 2 adjustments. It was issues on their side that I think they had a new hire and rounding issues and things like that. So one was, $2.97 that they owed us, and then we owed them 6 cents due to rounding errors. So they did make those adjustments.
We covered that.
I thought it
Okay, L, May deputy report, Gary's not here, but that's in your packet. M, committee reports. Technical coordinating committee.
Yes, so the TCC and the TAC, they presented the first draft of the 2024-2033 State Transportation Improvement Program. In terms of Hildebran, the Exit 118 project is listed in that. It's estimated at $13.2 million currently, and then our sidewalk project via the LAP program is also in there at $520,000. They plan to review that, I believe, on Wednesday to pass it. The one I did not see, and it could just be based on the way it was listed, was the Exit 119 bridge interchange improvement, whatever they're gonna do. So I plan to ask Avery about that on Wednesday.
Transportation Advisory Committee,
Logan and I had spoke about those 2 reports, since we have the exact same agenda, we cover the same material, but he's gonna report on that, because
We'll
I'm
just do
just
it.
gonna be saying the same thing he does.
okay, okay. Western Piedmont Council Government Policy Board,
Meeting was last month, and we mostly talked about the housing development growth toolkit, and Allison covered that tonight.
okay, Work Economic Development,
We did not have a meeting.
Recreation and Tourism,
Nothing to report.
Water Resource Committee, Medic,
Okay. Betty met on, May the 25th at, South Mountain Distilling Company in Roseville College. They did not give a sample. so-
Why did you?
They said you could stay afterwards and they would give you a sample, but I didn't. The minutes for, April the 27th were approved. Kerry gave a financial, overview, including May's profit and loss statements and the balance sheet. New loan applications continue to come into the office. Suzanne Wallace was appointed to the board, to represent Valdez. The new officers for the board were announced: Chairman Tanya Stevenson, Vice Chair Marla Thompson, Treasurer Johnny Berry, Secretary Sherry Bradshaw. Eddie Magency gave an update on delinquent loans. He gave technical assistance to 2 businesses, and 1 new loan was approved for a business in Valdez. The next meeting was June the 22nd at the Valdez County Hall. Again, Carrie went over the profit and loss and balance sheets and reviewed those, and minutes for May were approved. Vedek's 2023-24 administrative budget was approved, and Carrie thanked all the towns for their contributions to Vedek. All members signed an annual confidentiality and conflict of interest agreement. There was one new line for a business in Drexel, and one overrun loan was restructured. The next meeting is July the 27th, that's somewhere, we don't know yet.
Okay, I'm sorry, was there a question?
You had mentioned maybe having a representative come to the July meeting.
Yes.
That's too bad.
Yeah, it's coming to July.
Okay, the library board meets tomorrow. However, I'm gonna be out of town, but it's open to the public. Valdez Library at 4, so if anybody would like to go. Next is the events committee, and we have not met.
No.
So that's all the committee. We move on to other business.
The only thing I had is, and I can't remember the date, Alice, you may remember, the public meeting for April 19th.
The paper just said August, the end of the day.
Okay, so we'll keep you updated on that, but they will have another public meeting on the interchange improvements at exit 118, so I'll get you that next month.
Okay. Anything else? Announcements? Okay, that just leaves one thing.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor? Thank you. Thank y'all for coming.
No,